Iowa Debris and Jennifer Lopez on talent.
Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Cake Radio Show. I hope y'all are doing well because today, on the 11th episode of Logsmiths, we are going to sit down and have a conversation. So, you guys know about, fan bases and stands and all that type of stuff. But have we had the conversation about anti-fan bases? Clap if you know what I'm talking about. Because for starters, with I wanted to bring this up because it was brought up to like I've had thoughts about this throughout my time doing the Cake Radio Show, especially this year. What I'm talking about, different girls, like different pop girls, different R&B girls, like the Normanis, the Chloes, even some of the rap girls like Megan Dochi. Like there have always been conversations throughout those episodes that I've done of you know fan bases. Like there's the fans, people who like really like what the girls are doing, really supporting them, streaming the music, watching the music videos, asking for the music videos and stuff like that. And then you have like anti fan bases. And anti fan bases are, just for long story short, people who are like supporting in spite, like they don't want, you know, they're haters. They don't want the fan base, like these artists, to like succeed, or always there to like question, you know, in a non-constructive way, these artists. And I guess I gotta explain this and provide more examples to really drive the point home as to what I'm talking about. Megan Thee Stallion is a good example. Megan Thee Stallion, for like a good minute, was an artist who was like fairly chill, like fairly, claimed across the board by different people, different fans of all different types, and she still is that. But since the release of WAP many years ago, there's been this growing existence of like an anti fan base with Megan Thee Stallion. And Megan's anti fan base falls between two different, groups of people. You have Barb's, the people who are rooting for Megan's downfall just because of the fact that she collaborated with Cardi B on WAP. And Barb's, you can't tell me that there's no other reason why you guys like that, like dislike that lady, because there hasn't been any other situation. Like it was WAP, Nicki kept sending shots, and then his came out. So like, there's a big gap in between that a lot of people try to fill. Like, oh, like she's really like she's just mean. Like, I don't trust her energy and da 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 da. For there's too much gap in between, those two major events. And even before his, there was like, again, Nicki sending shots with like Red Ruby the Sleaze and all that type of stuff. There's too much gap in between for y'all to be lying and acting like it wasn't, like y'all don't like that woman because of the release of WAP. And there's that side of the anti fan base. And then you have the Tory Lane's quote unquote fan side of the fan base. And the thing is, like, they're not fans because, Tory Lane's hasn't really done too much on the charts. Like, he hasn't really gotten too many cosigns after, the situation that went down with Megan Thee Stallion. Well, men were trying to co-sign him, but a lot of artists went, like, even if they did co-sign him, because you had Diddy co-signing him and different type of people co-signing him, they weren't collaborating with him. Like, they were verbal cosigns, but or like popping up on Instagram live with him, but they weren't really like putting in the work and platforming him in the ways that they could have. And the reason behind that is very simple. The music's trash. Like, no one's really gagging at Tory Lane's music. Not even the men that were trying to pretend to like his music, when they were trying to root for a man in the Megan Thee Stallion situation. Because, like, again, you have the Barbs who are going at Beckon just because of WAP, and they just, it's like, it's a quote unquote go against Nicki, it's going to cost you type vibe. which is a whole different conversation. And then you have the Tory Lanez fans who were trying to support him in spite of Megan just because she's a woman and because she's a black woman. And we live in a society where a lot of people are going to go and support the man just because they can, even though that leprechaun really ain't got nothing special for y'all to be doing all that for. Another example of this is Normani. And this was something that I kind of noticed throughout the like dopamine era of videos that I was doing early on for the Cake Radio show, in which, you know, I interacting with a lot of people. There was a lot of people who are kind of split. Like there's people who are like legitimate Normani fans, and there's, you know, and there's even, and like obviously like there's so much variety in between that. Like you have people who are like me, who are like really, who are excited to just get Normani music finally, a full body of work from Normani, and you know, everything that we was getting from the project was a gag. And then you also have like, and even then, like there's also the people who are also like, again, people like me who are like, we got this body of work, it's really good, we're bumping it and stuff like that, but we want some visuals, like we want the music videos and stuff like that. And those are fair critiques, fair criticisms. And then you have the people who like the anti-fan base. And again, anti-fan base can be split between a few different groups. You have the Barbs again, for like, and I think it's because of the fact that like Normani used to have a lot of love for Nicki, and Normani used to show a lot of love to Nicki as well. And you know, I think she's still, well, she hasn't really said too much about Nicki nowadays, but then Normani collaborated with Cardi B on Wild Side, which ended up on the Dopamine album. And you have, now when you go through like, you know, the comments of certain, you know, posts and stuff like that, you see a lot of Barbs in the comments shading Normani and stuff like that. And it's purely just because of the Wild Side video. Like they, like you don't, like a lot of people will say like, oh, like she's not a good artist and stuff like that, when Normani has already showed a lot of talent. And it is one thing for people to like not like an artist, but if you don't like an artist legitimately for a legitimate reason, either you gonna like, if it's like, unless it's like something that's really controversial or like you try to be funny or something like that, all you're gonna do is just not stream the music and not talk about the woman and keep it pushing. But these people take it the extra mile, like they want the public to know, like, because nobody cares unless they tweet about it, that, you know, they don't like this person and they just are just, it's just a thing. So you have that portion of the anti-fan base, and then you also just have like the colorist crowd, because Normani is a dark-skinned woman, who are not letting up, and they're just like, girl, what's this rollout? Like, you should have been doing X, Y, Z in the third. And like, you know, as a fan, like even I can admit that there could have been a little bit more with the rollout. I have reasons to believe like the labels have fought for it rather than her, because like, again, she's been wanting to put out this body of work for a minute, and it's very evident that is. And it'd be very odd for an artist to want to put out a body of work and not care about the body of work. Like most artists don't do that, but like a lot of people keep saying that, and I don't know what that thing is. And you see like throughout the era of dopamine that a lot of people are having conversations. Like it seems to be this repeated conversation of like, oh, like we, like when the album was rolling out, we had like the announcement, and then, you know, people being like people gagging at the announcement, and then there's the gap in between, in which we're like, okay, so like where's the single, like what's going on, like what's the release date? And then we get the single and we get the release date, and then everyone's like, there's a small group of people who are like, girl, we didn't want this as a single, because like people wasn't feeling 159. I was feeling 159. Y'all not me. Y'all wasn't gagging like the way I was gagging. So there's people who are like, girl, what's the next single? Like, we need another single. And like, is it gonna be music videos and stuff like that for 159? Like, what's the tea? We get the teaser for Dopamine, which has like clip from what very, very clearly is gonna be the 159 music video, or like visualizer. And everyone's gagging and stuff like that. Like, ooh, like is this air is heating up, stuff like that. We get the album, everyone's gagging, stuff like that, and then since the release of the album, there's always like spirit like earthquakes almost, in which you have groups of people who are like, oh, like she didn't care about the album, like she just wants to be housewife and stuff like that, da 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 da, and then she'll put something out, and then the girls will be gagging again, like the R&B X performance, everyone was gagging at the performance, and then you have like the collaboration with Khaled, everyone's gagging at the collaboration with Khaled, but you also have the part of the anti-fan base being like, oh, like he's putting Normani to work, da 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 da, like girl. Anyways, the last artist that I wanted to reference, and I did talk about them earlier in the episode, is Chloe, and I will say Chloe and Halle is a group as well, because their anti-fan base, I would say, is like the ungodly hour group of people, and this is going to be like something that might piss a lot of people off, but it's something that needs to be said, because you have fans who have like supported Chloe and Halle through like for a long time, or even people who like got into Chloe and Halle through Ungodly Hour, but they listened to their previous bodies of work, and they've also listened to the solo pieces of work, and while they might have casual constructive critiques of the solo music, they're still rocking with the girls. There's a certain group of people who I would refer to as the anti-fan base for Chloe and Halle, respectively, who got into Chloe and Halle through the Ungodly Hour era, most likely have only listened to Ungodly Hour, and that's their only impression of the girls, and have set ridiculous expectations that are like impacting the girls now. Like, there's a lot of people who I've seen during like the conversations, because there's every time Chloe or Halle release solo music, like I feel like there's always this recurring conversation in which it's like, oh, like, do they care about solo music? Like, why does the solo music sound like this? They should just get back together, da 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 da. And or like, what's with the rollout? Because there's always conversations about the rollout, and it just seems like the label's to blame, because not my phone going off, y'all. There's always kind of like we have these conversations, and then Chloe and Halle kind of give us hints on social media that they want the music to come out, that they want to be on stage performing, that they want to do these things, and they're suggesting that the label is the one who's not letting them do that. Like, you always see Chloe, every time Chloe's doing, like this year when Chloe was able to do like the Macy's Parade performance, or like the Pandora performance with Halle for like Want Me and that Bee Gees cover that everyone's been gagging at lately, you always hear her, tweet about and talk about her excitement of being on stage and how she loves being on that stage. And then you also hear like her talking about how, the label isn't trying to greenlight the budget for the, Trouble in Paradise project and stuff like that. And how like back in the In Pieces era, how she said that the In Pieces album, what will become the In Pieces album, wasn't going to be coming out unless she got a big hit. And then they were just like, here's the album. And with Halle, on the other end, like you have her like releasing, singles and, teasing this album that she wants to release for her solo album. And then a lot of people were like, okay, like where's the album? Like where is, the next single and stuff like that, after she hopped on live and was teasing songs. And she posted like a Snapchat story that like went viral a little bit, in which she was just like she literally did not care. She was just like, hey guys, like new music's coming next month. We're just like, sometimes the label just don't give a fuck, but that's okay. And when the songs come out, like people gag at the songs, and then you always have that like one section of people who are like, oh, I just wish the girls would come back together, and like, oh, like we got it so good with the Ungodly Hour era, which is like, I mean, like, sure, because the album is great, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to diss Ungodly Hour, because that's an incredible album, an incredible body of work, but like, y'all gotta let the girl go a little bit. Like, y'all gotta know that, we that was the perfect album for a perfect time. We was all at home because of lockdown and all those different things were happening. Like, all these different things were happening. It was a moment of time. It was a big era. But people grow up, people mature, they look for bigger things, and like they want to do solo music. So like, you guys should support the solo music, because the solo music is good. Like, there isn't too much, like there are some like weaker songs out of the bunch, and like some rougher projects in the bunch as well. But like, the girls are trying with their solo music, and I think it's getting to the point in which like you have that anti-fan base exist, and it, because the girls are on social media and they see everything, it's scaring them from putting out what it's scaring them from doing what y'all want them to do, which is make a new Chloe and Halle album. Because the girls have been talking about how they want to do a Chloe and Halle album, but now when there's discussions of like a Chloe Halle album, the conversations are getting a little bit scarce. Like, they're like, of course we're gonna do a new album. When in previous, interviews, when they'd be asked if they're doing another album after a Golly Hour, there'll be a lot of excitement to it. They're like, oh, like Sis and I are always working on new music together, and that's probably still the case. But there's just something in me that makes me feel like, because of the fact that y'all just be complaining and like scaring the girls and like not liking what the girls do when they do solo music, or even when they come together. Because now there's always, like, I've also noticed that when the girls come together and it's like Chloe and Halle, not Chloe X Halle, like Chloe with Chloe's little monogram name and Halle, the girls be cutting up. Because like, I remember they came together for the remix of Soft for Flo's Axel Aries album, and the girls were really excited for them to come together and do that collab, because it's really iconic, and it's a really iconic remix, by the way. If you haven't listened to that, listen to it. But I immediately was seeing like tweets and people being like, oh, like they're like, it says Chloe and Halle and not Chloe X Halle. Like, the girls really be cutting up when there's like some sort of differentiation like that. When the girls are working together, the song gets good. Y'all just be cutting up. Like, I don't know. Like, I get that y'all want more, I guess a little bit more like layering with the vocals and stuff like that. Like, y'all want them to really be like back to what y'all would expect from Chloe and Halle. But the girls are getting back there. Like, give them time, give them grace, which is something that y'all are not giving them. And like, give them a little time. Like, they're gonna come back and get us all. Like, you just gotta be patient and nice. Like, everyone wants to be mean nowadays because y'all ain't got no jobs, and y'all are unhappy at the jobs that y'all do have. And it's just like, what's going on here? But that's my thoughts on anti-fan bases. This episode's gone longer than I was expecting it to. Hope y'all enjoyed this episode of the Cake Radio Show. Let me know your thoughts on anti-fan bases, and if y'all agree with my thoughts, if y'all agree with, the groups that I've named and mentioned, if y'all think that I'm telling the truth, or if y'all think I'm just spreading bullshit. But keep it kind, keep it cordial, keep it cute. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel where you get episodes of the Cake Radio Show and more before anyone else. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platforms, thank you for listening. Love y'all so much. Give the show a rating because it helps. Turn on notifications because y'all need to get these new episodes when they come in. And share the episode with your friends. Like, come on now. Like, that's all I got. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye-bye.